Hello, this is a tidal stream atlas. It gives information about the flow of tide, not the height and fall, but the flow of it, which is very useful to know, especially if you're in a sailing boat and you don't have the option of a lot of power and a lot of speed. So I'm just going to talk you through it and show you how I use it and how I was taught to use it, which is a very, very useful and kind of user-friendly way. And I hope it's useful to you. So the way a tidal atlas works is it gives you a map of a piece of water. In this case, it's Shetland. And it tells you the movement of the tide using these arrows. So the bigger arrows are stronger tides, the smaller arrows are weaker tides. And then it references that to a time. So in this case, it is high water Dover. So at high water Dover, this is what is happening to the water around Shetland. So if you know what time high water Dover is, then you know that that time this is what the water will be doing around Shetland. Now this book also gives us some other information. It also gives us Orkney. So we've got Orkney and Shetland, and we've got the water that's in between them. So this is the water here. So this is the top end of Orkney, south end of Shetland, and then here we have Fair Isle. Now, what I was taught to do, and which I still do today, if I'm using a tidal atlas, is I mark the days of the week down this side of the page. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then I get the tidal almanac and I find out what time high water is at Dover on these days. So high water Dover at Monday, I've got 14:30, Tuesday 03 in the morning, and then 15:10 in the afternoon. Wednesday 03:30 in the morning and 15:45 in the afternoon. Thursday 04:10 in the morning and 16:30 in the afternoon. Now I haven't done the Friday, Saturday and Sunday because the passage that I'm planning at the minute is only for 3 days, so we should arrive where we're going hopefully by Thursday morning, but we've also got the Thursday afternoon tide if we need it. So that's what I put in on there. So the days are marked in with pen because they stay there, but the tides I mark in with pencil, and then I can rub them out and redo that for whatever week I'm working. So what I do then is I go through the different pages, and you'll see each page has got the days in pen and has the tides written in pencil. So high water Dover, this one is an hour before high water Dover. So as you can see, high water Dover on Monday is 14:30. This picture is an hour before, so it's 13:30. So that tells me what the tides are doing an hour before high water Dover, and that tells me what time that is. And I then work my way sort of right through the book. So we got 2 hours before, 3 hours before, 4 hours before, 5 hours before, and 6 hours before high water Dover, which is actually low water. And that tells us all of the different movements of the water. So 6 hours before high water Dover will be 2100. So that's tonight. So 9 o'clock tonight, this is what the tide is going to be doing between Orkney and Shetland. At 10 o'clock tonight, you can see that it's dropped right off. So there's still quite a lot of tide here, but here it's dropped right off. And then 11 o'clock, it's pretty slack. So that's pretty much sort of slack water. And we've got water starting to come around this side at the bottom end of Shetland. So by midnight tonight, we've now got the water starting to move in the opposite direction, and we can see the bigger lines building up where the water has been squeezed around the islands, but still quite slack in the middle. And then by 1 o'clock in the morning, we've now got the full flow of the tide running this way. 2 o'clock in the morning, strongest tide coming around the bottom of Shetland. 3 in the morning, still got a good strong tide. 4 in the morning, it's starting to drop off a little bit, and the direction has slightly changed. 5 in the morning, and now we're finding slack water in this gap. And then by 6 in the morning, the tide has started to turn the other way. So because I've written the times in, all I need to do is look at the day, look at the time, look at the picture, and that tells me exactly what the tide is doing at any particular time. And there you can see there. So by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, we've got strong tides going in the opposite direction. So the passage I'm planning at the minute is taking me from Kirkwall in Orkney to Shetland. So Kirkwall, you can see here, see if I can get a better zoom. So here's Kirkwall, and we've got some narrows here that we need to get out of to get into this space over here before we start our passage up towards Shetland. Now, the tide runs in a different direction. So I need the tide to take me out of Kirkwall, going this way, but then once we're out here, I need the tide going in the other direction to take us up towards Fair Isle and Shetland. So what we're looking at, so this is 3 in the morning, tomorrow morning, and we've got good tide moving out there. Four in the morning, and we've got slack water here. So what we want to do is catch that last little bit of tide to take us through these narrows into this area, into the slack water. So that's 4, and then by 5 in the morning, we've then got the tide starting to go in the opposite direction. So I want to be going up here. So by then we'll be out there with the tide, so we're not going to have to go against this. And then we'll be out here in slack water hopefully by then, and then we can pick up the tide. So by 6 o'clock, slack water here, and then by 7 o'clock we've now started to got these arrows going in that direction, so the tide is going to help us start moving in that direction as we're sailing up here towards Shetland. So this is the tip of Orkney, this is North Ronaldsay, and there it is here. So by 7 o'clock, so the tide is kind of moving that way now, and we will be heading across here. So the tide won't be helping us, it's going to be slightly kind of going in that direction, but it won't be going against us, and that's what we're looking for. So that is how I use a tidal stream atlas, by filling in all of these. So that's right to 6 hours after high water. So I hope you found that useful, and I hope that gives you something more that you can do with your tidal stream atlas, and understand what it's for, not just a book that sits on the shelf. Now you might think, why Dover? Because Dover is a long way from Shetland and Orkney, but Dover really is just a reference point for all navigation in the UK. So it's used, and you can see here, it's used so as the reference, but it also has, so this time, although it's high water Dover, it's also 15 minutes after high water in Lerwick, so it gives us the local time, and it's 2 hours and 20 minutes before high water Aberdeen. So it does reference the local standard ports as well. But it doesn't really matter, as long as you have information about what time high water Dover is, then that is the time that the water is moving at this particular time, at that particular flow in Shetland. So it's just about a reference to get the actual time. Hope that makes sense. And you can see here we've got the bigger arrows to mark the stronger tides, and the smaller arrows to mark the weaker tides, and they also have numbers. So we have a 12 and a 22. Now that doesn't mean it's 12 knots or 22 knots. What it means is at Neeps it is 1.2 knots of tide, and at Springs it is 2.2 knots of tide. That's average. Whereas here we've got at Neeps it will be 0.2 knots of tide, and at Springs 0.3 knots of tide. So that's what the numbers refer to, and the arrows are just there to give you a visual reference. There's also so we have this little insert here, so if there's a particularly kind of interesting area or prevalent area for navigation, then there'll be an insert, and this is the insert. This is the entrance into Sullom Voe, where a lot of tankers go, so it's got a lot more information there. So that's your tidal stream atlas. I hope you found that useful. So that's how I use it. I only tend to use it really when we're in areas where we have strong tides, which we do around Orkney and Shetland, and it's invaluable for kind of helping you get that right and not end up running the wrong way against the tide, which can cause you a lot of delays. So I hope you found that useful. Enjoy your sailing.